Good morning.
Good
How are
afternoon,
you today?
good evening, and good night.
Before we get started, let me just show the thing that I've been really excited to show you. I'm going to present my screen here. Here's our cold opening for today, folks. I hope you're all watching. Do you remember these old commercials? This is so great. Here we go.
Session has a fractured fibula. Given him mild sedative, so I could be able to go on tomorrow.
Daddy's gonna be so excited.
All good.
That killed him.
Paging Dr. Palmer. Dr. Palmer.
You totally missed it, didn't you? Did you miss it?
No.
It looks like you were distracted. I bet your wife was saying goodbye to you, which if that's the case, I understand. But in case you missed it, he killed a fly and his daughter and wife walked in, and all they heard the doctor say was, "Well, that killed him," as he's looking at the patient's stomach. I thought it was kind of funny.
I saw it.
Do you remember those commercials at all? The old AmeriQuest commercials? They were on like 20 years ago. And there's some other funny, really that's one of the better ones, but they had some other ones that are just hysterical. So there's your cold opening. I hope you enjoyed it.
Face is hysterical.
That's true. So today, guys, we are going to be talking about exercise in the brain. And I should preface this by saying, because I know that if I don't say it, Brad's going to say it. Neither of us, by any means, are experts on the brain. We don't have backgrounds in neuroscience or anything like that. So I think the things that we're going to present or talk about really won't be anything that you can't just, Google and understand by looking stuff up on your own. But in, being in this industry, you do come across information that tells you, hey, there are more benefits to exercise than just physical benefits, right? We know there are a lot of benefits to your entire body, and your brain's obviously part of that. So I wanted to do this episode because I just don't think that can be understated. I think the benefits of just moving, for your brain they can be immense. And so, with a lot of people that have told us, hey, I'm not very happy. Like, I don't feel good. I just don't, I'm not mentally there. We have clients that are in those positions when they come on board with us. And, a month, 2 months, 3 months later, they act like a totally different person. They're happier, they smile more, they just feel better. And that's not just a physical change, that's a mental change too, right? So we know that if we eat better and certainly exercise better, that has an impact on everything. And so that's why I wanted to highlight this episode. So that's what we're going to dive into, guys, and I hope you find it beneficial. I think so whether this is mental clarity that you're after, or just improving your focus, or maybe you want to reduce anxiety, just feeling like you used to feel, think of movement as a crucial way to get there. Movement is medicine. So probably the first place to start is, obviously, let's define exercise for the brain. And I think there's two major areas that we're kind of talking about when we talk about this. Cognitive function. So things like, I would consider cognitive function things like your memory and focus and decision making, maybe even your creativity. And then there's mental health. So like your mood, your ability to regulate your mood, your anxiety levels, symptoms of depression, whether you feel motivated, things like that. That's how I would define those two things. Does that make sense? I would categorize, when we talk about exercise being able to influence two things, it's those two things: cognitive function and mental health.
Yeah, I mean, I think you can even break this down into like the neurobiology. Like, you have the higher prefrontal cortex cognitive function, and then you have your like basal limbic system, like your reptile brain. One of those is much more correlated to mood, and one is much more correlated to like cognitive tasks. And exercise definitely influences both.
Yeah. Do we I mean, I know. So exercise doesn't just change. I already said this, but it doesn't change just how you feel physically, right? It changes how your brain actually functions, and different types of exercise. I don't exactly know how, and maybe you know, but like different exercises can affect the brain in different ways. So like I know cardio, and again, I don't exactly know the mechanism why. If you do, I'd love to know what knowledge you have on it. But like cardio has been shown to help people with their mood and reduce anxiety. Strength training is sometimes tied to better, you know, I don't even know what you call it, like decision making function and like emotional control. Even something as simple as walking can improve your memory and your focus. So, do you have any how and why certain exercises can impact us differently? Like if I run a mile, that's gonna why would that make me feel different than if I go downstairs and go down to my workout equipment and start, bench pressing and stuff like that? Like I can feel different from those two things. And surely there's an impact on the brain in different ways on that. Maybe it's blood flow, maybe it's I don't know.
That is a very large question. So
Well, that's what we're here for. So let's do it.
let me try to break this down into a digestible conversation, also with the note that I am not a neurobiologist. So I think the first place to start is, I think a lot of times we operate like, if you just think about how you think about your body as it moves through the world, a lot of us think we are a brain that controls the body. Like we've got this little homunculus in our head and it's just like pulling the strings and moving our body around, right? Like a lot of us
What did you call it? A homunculus? I've never heard that word.
homunculus. That's like a little person in your brain. All right, well, you can look it up.
All right.
Like, did you ever see Men in Black, the first movie?
Oh yeah. Okay.
You know when they like open the guy's face and there's that little dude in his head?
Yeah.
That's
Okay.
basically the like that's a homunculus.
Okay.
So anyway, but the reality is it's not just our brain moving our body around. Our body also directly feeds into what our brain does, and depending on like kind of your view of consciousness, whatever, like the body directly affects how the brain is functioning and how it feels in its interpretation of the world, etc. So it's very bidirectional.
So a feedback loop,
right?
Feedback loop, right.
The temperature of your body determines how your brain responds. The like pain signals from your body determines how your brain responds. So it's all connected. So that's the first thing. Now,
For sure.
if we try to kind of break this down into a few core concepts, exercise influences the body through a lot of different mechanisms, and we can kind of try to categorize them into a few things. One is we have the like just change in nutrient flow in your body when you exercise, right? So when you're sitting versus when you're exercising, blood flow is different, oxygen flow is different, nutrient flow is different. So you basically get an increase in blood flow to your brain, which is good. Your brain feels good when it has more stuff going to it, right? It's like if we cut off blood to your brain, you die. If we increase blood to your brain to a certain extent, it feels better, right? It's kind of like if you haven't had any coffee, you feel terrible. If you've had a little bit of coffee, you feel great. If you have too much, you die, right? Same thing. So that's the first thing, is just like an overall change in nutrient status. The second is you get hormonal changes that directly influence mood when you exercise, right? You get changes in serotonin and dopamine, which influence your brain and your mood. The third thing is you get changes in your stress hormones. So like cortisol and adrenaline, noradrenaline / epinephrine / norepinephrine, the like ratios of those and the total amount of those change when you exercise. Lower intensity exercise is a little bit different than higher intensity exercise. Very short-term duration exercise is different than long-term exercise. And like all the specific details of that, I don't think really matter for this conversation, but just know that like the fight or flight / stress hormones in your body change as well. Generally speaking, it makes your brain feel better. Like the fight or flight
More alert.
status changes to be more in favor
Which-
of like, hey, I feel better. And then, so that's the third thing. The fourth thing is our body will produce different sorts of like peptides and neurotransmitters that basically influence how we rewire the brain. We improve how we make connections, etc. And then you also actually get a change in like neural structure that rewires the connections from like a motor control perspective. So like when you do an athletic task that requires coordination, like you ask your brain to change different things, right? Like the patterns and how your neurons fire, like the neuroplasticity thing. Like if you're learning to shoot a basketball, you rewire all the muscle patterns, all those things, right? And you're learning something. So that's the fourth thing. And then the fifth thing is, and this is a little more nebulous, of when you just create a stress on the brain that involves nutrient stress, hormonal stress, learning stress, all of those things, it basically requires your brain to learn, hey, I'm capable of doing hard things. The next time we do it, it won't feel so hard.
So it adapts.
Yeah. And so that's actually a large part of it too, is like you're learning, your brain is learning self-efficacy in a way that says, hey, I'm more capable of navigating the world. Now that's a very like kind of woo-woo, non-specific adaptation, but like that is something that matters, right? When you build self-efficacy in any domain, you're actually building the confidence in your own mind / brain of like, I can do something that I didn't think I was capable of doing. So it's like all 4 / 5 of those things are going on when you exercise.
How much does exercise do? Like if I go running, or if, let's say I go sprinting or something, what impact does that have on adrenaline and the adrenal glands? And the reason I ask is because if you think about, back to your example about like primitive man, fight or flight response, if there was like a dangerous animal, you would run, right? And you would be like super alert after that. Like obviously you're like, holy crap, I got to survive. So like you are as alert as possible. And some of that is, I mean, you have the adrenaline running through you, and there's other obviously hormones that are happening there. But is that part of why you think exercise, just from an evolutionary standpoint, makes us more alert and more focused and like, aware?
And also there's those hormones do things in addition to like the brain, right? They also control nutrient flow. So when you get the release of cortisol and epinephrine from exercise, you get a change in heart rate, right? Which is required for increased cardiac output. And then you also get mobilization of fatty acids, and your body will start to dump more glucose into the bloodstream because you use it, right? So when you exercise, your body requires fatty acids and glucose to function, and your body's going to use it from either your bloodstream or inside your muscle cells, right? And so depending on the level of intensity and how long you've been going, your body's going to pull from different sources. So when you start to exercise, and as intensity increases or duration increases, your body starts dumping nutrients into the blood from stored tissue, fat and liver, for glucose. And so those hormones, in addition to your brain, also just cause you to dump nutrients in your blood, so your peripheral tissues, your organs, and your muscles can actually suck that up and continue to function. So this is like, you also see a similar like physiological thing happen. Like if you go very low carbohydrate in your diet, a lot of times people will report they wake up in the middle of the night. And what generally happens is you have low glucose in your blood while you're sleeping, which is not great. So your body dumps cortisol to cause your liver and other things to happen to push more glucose into your bloodstream, so the rest of your body can basically feed when it needs to. You do that during exercise. And what's really interesting is, depending on the level of intensity, your body knows what the coming demand for glucose is going to be. So you will preemptively dump glucose into your blood before you need it. So when you do really high intensity exercise, like if you go from doing not a lot, like if you're just hanging out and you just start sprinting immediately, your glucose levels will actually go up before they go down.
And correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't the brain run primarily on glucose? Like that's its
Without getting too technical, yes.
Sure. Yeah. So I could see how low carb. That's why they talk, like if you're going keto, after a while you hear about brain fog, right? Like I'm assuming that's must be part of it.
A lot of that occurs during the transition of when your body's relying more on, like, if your brain's used to running on glucose and then it has to switch to ketones. It's just like the
Gotcha. It's just okay. I understand. By the way, two things. Monica says hi, and Monica, for those of you who don't know, you should go talk to her. Anybody who's interested in getting a coach, she is your lady to talk to. She's super helpful. Look up Monica Padilla in the Facebook group and she'll help you out. So shout out to Monica. The other thing I really wanted to mention, you talked about if you don't have enough caffeine, you're not a happy person. Do you know how much caffeine? What's the lethal dose of caffeine?
For somebody my size, I think for me it's something like 5 grams of caffeine.
So this is ChatGPT's answer, but the lethal dose of caffeine for most humans is estimated to be at 10 grams or 10,000 milligrams of pure caffeine. However, the actual amount can vary depending on sensitivity and other factors. So how much coffee is that? Let's break it down. An average 8-ounce cup of coffee contains about 95 milligrams of caffeine. 10,000 milligrams divided by 95 is you would need about 105 cups of coffee in a short amount of time to die from caffeine. So do you think you could do it?
Is this a challenge?
105 cups of coffee. Jeez. Okay. I just had to look up that random fact. So let's move on. The other thing I want to dive into is most people in our group, I know I'm generalizing here, but it is true. Most people, they want to start exercising in order to look better. That's just what most of us want to do. That's like kind of the first thing we think about. But what keeps you going, I think whether you realize it or not, well, not always, but like the mental benefits can keep you going, right? So like I talk to a lot of our clients. We see clients who start walking every day that didn't used to do that before, and they'll say, man, I feel better. I feel clearer headed. I feel I'm more emotionally balanced. People who lift weights report better focus. And I almost wonder if that's, maybe I'm drawing a correlation where there is none, but like when you're lifting weights and you're counting out your reps, you're very intentional and you're focused on, okay, I got to get to that 12 rep mark. I wonder if that has anything to do with why people report feeling better focus outside of their lifting routine, better decision making, because we're concentrating on those things while we're lifting. Do you think there's a correlation there?
Yes. I mean, I also think there's just a little bit of, let me just put this a different way. When is the last time you left the gym and you were sad that you went to the gym?
That's such a great point, because you never
with
feel
the exception of like you
feel,
accidentally like massively hurt yourself from some freak accident.
I'm not a great example for this because I don't go to a gym. I just have like a workout room downstairs, but I've never had a workout that I've been afterward been like, man, I'm upset that I did that. I'm always happy afterward that I did it. Even if I didn't want to do it initially, afterward I'm like, man, I feel better. Like I'm happy that I did it. I've never regretted a workout.
Yeah. What's really interesting to me is we all know that. Like every time I get up early and I go to the gym and I'm on my way home, I'm like, God, I'm so glad I did that. But then like, why is it still that every morning when I wake up, my brain is like, I don't want to do it. Like,
because
your brain is such a jerk.
Well, because it wants the path of least resistance, I think.
Yeah. But isn't it weird that even after years of like having the feedback loop of I went, I feel good, I should do it again, I still get I'd rather lay in bed because it's easier. Like my brain for years, that's just the way
how we're neurologically wired. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that has to do with evolutionarily, we are primed to conserve energy. And those types of things take energy. But realistically, energy systems want to conserve energy and be efficient.
I mean, that could be it. I also am just like, why would a decade of greasing the pattern and knowing the outcome still not have a big enough impact that
Sure.
I still don't experience the same feelings and thoughts? You know what I mean?
That's for sure. Yeah, I know that's a good point, and I don't know because you would think that it would after a certain point. I have a couple things I want to read here. These are not my notes, so just prefacing this. But there's a few things I wanted to read for you guys, and I'll try to get through these as quickly as I can. But I thought they were really good points to make. So we're seeing mental health professionals now prescribe exercise alongside therapy and medication. And so the notes that I've written down are here are some like tangible benefits that we know about. Stress relief. So how it works. Physical activity reduces levels of stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline while increasing levels of endorphins, the body's natural mood elevators. The hormonal shift improves your ability to regulate emotions and makes you feel calmer and more grounded. Anxiety and depression. This is a big one for people. How this works, exercise stimulates the production of serotonin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, all brain chemicals that play a key role in mood regulation. It also increases, I've not heard of this, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, which supports the health and growth of brain cells and is often low in people with depression. If you create a more stable internal chemical environment, exercise improves mood, reduces intrusive thoughts, and enhances emotional regulation. Just a few more here. Daily cognitive clarity. Even short, consistent bouts of movement, like daily walks, improve blood flow to the brain, which enhances oxygen and nutrient delivery. It's what you were talking about earlier. Why this helps? This improves mental clarity, alertness, and problem solving. Clients often report that morning movement routines help them feel mentally lighter for the rest of the day. Strength training and focus. Resistance training in particular has been associated with improvements in executive function, the brain's decision-making center, especially in older adults. The neural activation required to perform complex coordinated lifts may stimulate areas of the brain involved in memory, planning, and sustained attention. And then lastly, coaching as mental support. Many clients report that structured coaching gives them a sense of control, routine, and personal investment, which reduces mental fatigue and decision paralysis. Why this helps? Reducing the number of decisions you have to make each day frees up mental bandwidth, and that's huge for people feeling overwhelmed. I thought that last point was really interesting, don't you? Like that's an angle that we don't think of, as far as like, not that we don't think of it, but I think it doesn't often get thought of, is the coaching support side of things mentally. Like when you can reduce the number of decisions that you have to make because you're getting guidance on those, and other people are like showing you how to make the decisions and sometimes making them for you just to show you what to do, the mental bandwidth that releases can make you feel like, holy crap, like I've got so much time for everything else now. Like it's just such a huge benefit that I think that one can't be overstated.
When I was younger, actually, there's so many things I want to respond in this kind of segment, so hopefully I can get to all of them. But kind of going in reverse order. When I was younger and I read like Steve Jobs wore the same outfit every day because he wanted to reduce the amount of decisions he made in a day, and I was like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Now with everything going on in my life, every decision that gets taken off my plate in a day makes my day exponentially better. Because I think about like every decision that I have to make in a day, just there's so many, and so many of them are consequential, that like anything that I can do to reduce how much cognitive load has to go into making a decision is like such a huge return on investment in my life, right? Like
I get that now.
For example, we hired out somebody to mow our lawn this year. Like I've mowed my lawn pretty much every year for my entire life. Just not thinking about like what day of the week based on the weather am I going to have time in my schedule to go mow the lawn, and I can just do what I need to do in my life. Done.
Right.
That is worth more than the hour it takes me to do it. Right.
And worth more than what you pay the guy, right?
Yeah. And so I think like the same thing applies here of if you know that like eating well and exercising is going to be better for your mental health, but you don't know what's best, you don't know how to navigate traveling in the airport, you don't know how to make sure you get the right kind of workouts in your hotel, and you can literally just have somebody tell you what to do, especially when days are tough. Like you've just offloaded 90% of the work that it takes to make the decision to do the right thing. So that's a big part of it. Now, when we talk about kind of going back to your initial thing, the quote unquote prescription of exercise for improving mental health, I think that there's three major components to why that's starting to be used. One is think about the difference of utilizing something like exercise to change the inputs to your brain in a fairly subtle but important way. Like you get normal physiological changes in serotonin, dopamine, adrenaline, etc., right? How different is that than like taking a pill that massively alters it? Right?
It's that feedback loop that you're looking for.
Well, it's a very like one is I'm just trying to think of a good analogy.
I mean, I think what you're trying to say maybe is that one of them is artificial. I don't want to downplay
Well,
it, but like
no,
it's not.
it's not artificial. It's like the magnitude of the effect. So like one probably
Sure.
influences your brain 1,000 times, and the other one influences your brain 50 times, right? Like one of them is a much more subtle nudge in the right direction than the other. And there's a lot of benefits that come from those subtle nudges over the really large ones. Now, that doesn't mean that the large nudges are not necessary for certain situations. They 100% are. But, and like the longer term of regulating your body, like that's probably better, right? It's sort of like managing your blood sugar. Your body does a much better job managing it by itself, by like sensing nutrient levels, releasing the right amount of insulin, and maintaining your blood sugar within a narrow band, than if you're like, imagine if you had to dose yourself with insulin and glucagon right. to like try to balance out.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's, like, it's sort of like that.
Yeah.
There's that piece. The second piece is, generally speaking, a healthier body long-term leads to a healthier mind. And so if you can prescribe regular structured exercise to somebody for years or a decade at a time, the likelihood that their mental health is better is much higher. Right? There is definitely a correlation between overall like physical health and mental well-being. And so exercise is obviously a huge part of that. And then the third piece is, again, like showing somebody that they have the self-efficacy to do a thing lifestyle related that's good for them, helps them feel like they are in control of what they're doing. And I think that's I think about when my mental health struggles the most, it's generally related to I feel like things are out of my control.
What when you feel like your mental state or your mental health, whatever you'd like to call it, is in not ideal shape, does any of that have to do with your environment? Like, for example, if I don't get outside and like go for a walk or lift in a day or something, like if I just sit here all day, by 3 or 4 o'clock, I'm like, I just don't feel like doing anything the rest of the day. Like, so it's a lot of it's my environment. Is that the case for you at all? Like, where you feel like, man, I gotta like do something. I gotta move. Otherwise, like I'm starting to feel like, blah.
It's internal environment and external environment. And so external environment is, am I inside or outside? Am I hot? Am I cold? Am I hungry? Am I thirsty? Am I in a stressful meeting? Am I on vacation? Like that is all external environment, right? Internal environment is, what is the state of my brain in general? Is it highly stressed? Am I currently exercising? Like, is my brain in flow? is my brain tired from not sleeping? And so like, how do you push things to where external environment is better and internal environment is better, right? And for me, it's like if I'm outside or if I'm exercising or if I'm not in a stressful situation, those things all improve like the mental status that you have.
So I know this about you is that right now your brain is tired from not sleeping because you've got
My
little one.
brain is never tired.
Says the guy who just told me yesterday, man, I'm so tired because I only got 2 hours of sleep last night.
I'm physically tired. My brain is never tired.
Whatever you want to tell yourself.
This is like I tell myself I don't get sick, so I don't get sick.
Yeah, that's how that works. You can will your immune system to be superhuman.
You your mental outlook has a massive impact on how you recover from disease.
Well, not only disease, but God, that's interesting you say that. I was just talking to one of my best friends. We went golfing not too long ago, and I suck at golf. I'm not a golfer, but whatever. I was like, I'll go with you, and we'll play.
I'm glad you
And,
put that in there because otherwise I was going to be like, I bet you suck at golf.
Oh, dude, I do. I'm terrible. You should see my golf swing. It's like a Billy. No, it's like a Happy Gilmore swing, dude. It's terrible. My strategy is just to hit the ball as hard as I can. But anyways, we were talking, and did you ever see? Did you ever see? I think it was Jackass 2. Did you ever see the movie where that movie where they're in? There's like this riot machine that has like 1,000 like little rubber balls, and they use it for riots, like to disperse crowds. They'll set it off, and these rubber balls fly at like I don't know some crazy amount of feet per second. They're obviously not lethal, but they hurt like a you know what.
Where
So-
are we going with this?
Trust me, I got you. I know there's a point, but
If anybody wants to know what it's like to be in a meeting with Dylan where I ask him a question about like what is
that's
this
not
data?
true.
I get a 9
is-
minute answer and then we still don't have the data.
Sometimes that's true, not always.
Anyway, you're talking about rubber balls. Continue.
Let me finish my story. So Johnny Knoxville, Bam Margera, and Ryan Dunn go in there, and they're standing there, and they're ready to shoot these rubber balls at him. Now, Bam Margera ahead of time did not want to do it. The dude was scared. He's like, I'm not doing this. They convinced him to do it, but you could tell he was like scared and really not wanting to do it. The other two were gung ho about it. So they get shot with these rubber balls. Johnny Knoxville and Ryan Dunn afterward are like, oh, that hurt, but they're kind of like laughing. Bam Margera's on the floor crying. And and what I was talking, the reason I brought up the golf, because we were having this conversation when I was golfing with my buddy, and he said, those must have hurt like crazy. And I go, yeah, but it's probably mental. A lot of it's mental. He goes, well, what do you mean? It's like, well, look at the attitudes of Bam Margera beforehand versus the other two who were gung-ho about it, and look at their results afterwards. Look at their behaviors and actions afterwards. And so your point about your mental state and your belief about it has an impact on the outcome of whatever it is, right? And so I just thought that was super interesting, is that, if your mindset is a lot of it. It's like why some of us can, if we're sick, we act like giant babies, and some people are just like, yeah, I'm sick, but I'm gonna like press on, because a lot of it is your mindset. You know what I'm saying? You didn't answer my question though. Did you ever see that movie? Do you know what scene I'm talking about? Okay, whatever. It's fine.
Probably. I mean, like all the movies are basically the same, so it's hard to delineate.
That's true.
1, 2, 3,
That's-
Forever, 3D, 7. I don't know what they're all called now at this point.
That's fair. A couple other things I want to get into, and we're trucking along nicely with time here, but there are a few key points that I didn't read this part, but I want to get to these, and then I want to talk about some actual actionable steps that we can take. But there were a couple other additional benefits that I wanted to tell people that I hadn't read regarding memory and executive function. Regular aerobic and resistance exercise increases hippocampal volume, and I think you had mentioned the hippocampus earlier, but that is the part of the brain responsible for memory formation. Sleep. People always talk about, not always, but often in the group talk about, my sleep is crap. Like how do I improve my sleep? Exercise helps regulate your circadian rhythm and reduces insomnia by decreasing overactive arousal in the nervous system. It also increases the amount of time spent in deep sleep, which is the most restorative phase of the sleep cycle. Better sleep enhances memory consolidation, mood stability, and recovery, all key elements of brain health. So again, just another example of an exercise, a benefit on your brain of exercise. You can actually sleep better from it. So I thought that was an interesting point to make. So if you want to sleep better and recover better, exercise can do that. Just I think an underrated / overlooked benefit. So Brad, if you're on only a couple hours of sleep, maybe go for a half marathon jog or something. All right.
Speaking of just brain structure, this is totally not related in any way, shape, or form, but I have to tell you, the craziest thing I've ever seen in like neuroscience is there was a guy who was born without 90% of his brain.
Okay.
Like 90% of it was just like liquid.
Okay. That's weird.
And his IQ was like just slightly below normal. And he was like a white collar worker. And this was in 2007 they found it. So like
Is this
everything we
be-
kind of know about the brain is basically not true, which is wild.
So in the brain, in the part of the brain that was there, whatever was there, it sounds like he was able to develop what we would consider a full brain in a much smaller volume.
I mean, what does full brain mean?
Well, all of the abilities that you would normally retain in a normal sized brain, he was able to have that in a small portion. This is the guy?
This is brain. So like it was just the outside layer that was a brain. Everything in the middle was just soup, liquid.
Huh. What the? Well, what does this mean? Like, what do we know? What did they conclude from this, or not? We don't know.
But I don't know.
That's wild. Well, since we're on an unrelated topic, we can take 60 seconds to talk about split brain patients. We also. Oh, you have I think you've shown me this.
The book may be downstairs. Hold on.
Dude, such an interesting topic, though.
Anyway, yeah, split brain research is really crazy. What I think is most interesting is, and this actually explains a lot of what we hear from our clients, and this also explains a lot of why people underreport their food intake, even though they don't think they are. So and this has come out of the split brain research. So basically, the way this works in split brain research is you obviously have two hemispheres of your brain, right? And they are connected through a like group of connections called the corpus callosum. It connects the two halves of your brain. And in some cases, in people with like long-term epilepsy, they will sever that connection because a lot of times they'll like wherever the electrical stuff's going on, it'll like cross the brain to the other hemisphere and it can cause damage. They'll like sever it, which means the two halves of your brain do not talk to each other. And so what's really interesting is you can actually split the field of vision and give people like a story on one side versus the other. And you have a portion of your brain on the left side of your brain. It's called the left brain interpreter, where its whole job is to like make a coherent story out of the world, even if it's not true. Because your brain just like cannot handle things that don't make sense, right? It's sort of like we all have a black spot in our vision in the middle, but we don't see it because your brain just like can't handle incomplete things. It's the reason we see animals in clouds instead of just cloud shapes. I can't remember what the name for that is, but like we just see things that aren't there because our brain has to have some sort of predictive model. It can't predict nothing. And so the left brain interpreter will just make stuff up that's not true. And it you will deeply believe that it is true. Like, even though it's objectively not true. So this is like, people will be like, oh, I logged all my food. No, like I logged all my food. And I'm like, well, the physics said you didn't. So like, it's not that I don't trust you. I just don't want to trust your brain because it's a liar.
Yeah. So I find that super fascinating as well. I looked this up. I'll read this real quick. If a face is shown only to the left visual field, which goes to the right hemisphere, a split brain patient can recognize the face, maybe tell if it's happy or sad, but they can't verbally describe or name the face because that info never gets to the left hemisphere. Isn't that wild? Like they can't, they won't be able to like accurately describe it. It's so weird to me. If a face is shown only to the right visual field, which goes to the left hemisphere, they can describe and say whose face it is, but it may lack full emotional recognition or subtle face processing that the right hemisphere is better at. And so, yeah. Oh, that's the one. Yeah.
So
Yep.
this book is really interesting from two perspectives. One, the science is really interesting, but two, he spends a lot of time talking about like his life becoming a scientist. And let me tell you that I was born in the wrong time in science, because he basically spends a lot of his time talking about when he was at Caltech doing a lot of this research, that him and one of his colleagues who was in like a different field, was like a physicist or something, who worked down the hall, like they would just go to lunch and just get smashed on martinis at lunch. They'd take like a 3-hour lunch, have like 6 martinis, and then go back to the lab. I'm like, man, when I was growing up in science, we just like lived in the lab all the time and never had fun. All we did was work.
I don't actually believe that's true. You guys went out too, but instead of smashing martinis, you guys were just smashing 10 PBRs at lunch.
No.
You're so a PBR guy. Okay. All right. Here's where we're at. We've recapped a lot of the benefits of exercise on the brain. We've talked about what it does for the brain. We know there's a lot of good stuff going on, but like, so for people that struggle, where I want to go next is like, how do I incorporate this? Like, what are some actionable steps? This is where I wanted to go next, and just kind of give people an idea of where to start. If you're struggling, like, what do I do? So I was thinking back to a couple episodes ago, it might have even been the last one, I can't remember, but we were talking about like, what's the minimum thing that you can do? So it would be a lot to ask of someone who has for the last 10 years not done any sort of exercise and just sat on their couch, to ask them to then go, run a mile. It's not going to that's not going to happen. So you have to start small, right? So if you're thinking that this all sounds great, where do I start? I'm thinking that, okay, if you're a beginner, we know that walking helps tremendously. So you can start simple by maybe you just walk for 10 minutes a day. Like, it might not sound like much, but 10 minutes a day will make a difference. And then maybe the next, after a few days, you increase that to 15 minutes and so on and so forth. Or maybe you start to walk faster. Then what I would recommend, if you haven't, add resistance training to your routine a couple times a week, right? It doesn't have to be complicated. I'm 39 years old, and for the last 10 years, all I've really done is 2 to 3 times a week resistance training. And all I really do is like squat, bench, and deadlift, and maybe a few, like some bent over rows and stuff like that. But I mainly just do like the compound lifts. So it doesn't have to feel overwhelming, and it doesn't have to be like, my wife and I will go on a walk with our kids pretty much every day after dinner. We'll walk around our neighborhood, which ends up being about a mile. So it's like a 20-minute walk. But like, my routine is not complicated. And I think people get overwhelmed when I talk to people and they say, hey, I'm thinking about getting a coach. Like, who do I talk to? Like, should I do training? Should I just focus on nutrition for now? Like, my exercise isn't good. Like, should I work on that too? And it's like, well, yeah, you absolutely can. But like, you also want to start small. Like, trying to throw everything all at once at you is going to overwhelm you. And the likelihood that you're going to follow through is not as high as it would be if I just start you in small steps. We take small steps at a time and just kind of work this into your routine, right? So I think for people, one of my biggest pieces of advice, if you're trying to figure out, okay, how do I look better, and how do I feel better, and how do I like think better, and how do I get more sleep, and how do I improve my emotional well-being, like, exercise is a huge part of that. That's why I say start small. Maybe go for a 10 to 15 minute walk every day. Just start doing something that you can incorporate, every day. I'm sure you and Marissa take, the dogs and the baby on a walk with the stroller quite frequently. Those are just easy things that you can do when you get out. I know you've told me, like, Like you go for a walk every day. You probably take your dogs for, during the workday, you'll go for a walk with your 2 dogs. Like just simple things that you can incorporate into your day make a huge difference. So it doesn't have to be complicated, right? Like it can just be things that you can fit into your day.
I mean, also find something you enjoy doing.
100%.
Like
Yes.
if you love golfing, golf. Like if you golf several times a week and you walk 18 holes, that's decent exercise. I mean, you're not going to be like bodybuilder stage ready, but like that
Yeah.
is an improvement
you-
over very little. If you like playing basketball, play basketball. If you like
How many times a week do you play basketball on average? Like
once.
oh, really? Oh, I thought you played more than that. Okay.
No, I have this thing called a job that really gets into my basketball time.
Dang it.
I used to play a couple times a week, and sometimes during like the basketball season, I'll play a couple times a week. But and I used to play 2-3 days a week. But the hard part now is like as I get older, is the schedule. Like, I used to play like early morning, like 5:30 a.m. pickup. But like I can't do that right now with the baby schedule. So
that's early. Sorry, I interrupted you. What were you saying about exercise, though?
Yeah, I mean, just
picking
finding something you really enjoy is also massively important. Like if you love Olympic lifting, Olympic lift. If you love powerlifting, power lift. Like it's so much more important that you enjoy than that you do the optimal thing.
And I think the other part too is we can't stress enough. Shift your mindset about exercise. Like don't think of workouts as a punishment or a chore, especially not as punishment for something that you've eaten. Right? Think of them as like mental hygiene, right? Like I'm not just caring for my body, I'm caring for my mind by doing this. I'm not just looking to check a box for weight loss. Like this has other benefits to it as well. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be like intentional exercise. Like if you go intentionally walk for a mile or whatever, that's intentional exercise, right? Activity is activity. So you could be physically active planting a garden. You could be physically active cleaning your house. You can be physically active mowing the lawn, stuff like that. That's activity, and those have benefits versus not doing something, right? So, and from a coaching perspective, I mean, this is what we do here at Macros Inc., right? We help people build these realistic plans that reduce, all of the overwhelm that you guys might be feeling instead of adding to it. So if you really, one of the ways that people should look at coaching, and even if anybody's listening out there and you decide not to go with Macros Inc. and you get some other coach, that's all good, right? It's not what it really means. The point I'm trying to make is we'd love to work with whoever, but like ultimately the goal, you get a coach not to add more to your plate. You get a coach to help them so that they can help you simplify your life, not add to it, right? We've seen so many people start small, whether maybe it's a couple workouts per week, a daily walk, and suddenly they're sleeping better, they think better, they feel more emotionally stable. All of the things that we've talked about are huge benefits of coaching. And I thought that was important to mention that, these things, when you're feeling fatigued, you're feeling stressed, you feel like there's just a lack of time in the day, those barriers, they get better when you're moving your body the right way, when you're exercising and you have more of a routine. So all of those things they all add up to huge benefits. And so if anyone's out there wondering, and listening to this and thinking, man, I should look into working with someone to help me simplify these things and do exactly what we're talking about, we're here for you. But there's also, there's no shortage of options out there, whatever you end up deciding. But just keep that in mind. Shift the mindset toward exercise it doesn't have to be a chore. It shouldn't feel like an obligation. It's really, I'm doing this for my own physical and mental benefit. The final thing I want to say, Brad, is it's just interesting. How many times have we talked about environment? We always talk about
once,
like
that's just one time.
But like this conversation, we talk about the brain and its feedback loops. So if I go exercise, of course, that's input to my brain that is going to have an impact on my brain, and then vice versa. So again, this is environmental that impacts me as a person. Just shape your environment to be more conducive to the things that you want to do.
Here's the
outcomes that you
other
want.
most underrated thing about environment. The lighting at the gym is so much better, and I look like I'm more tan and jacked when I go to the gym. So I have to
Depends
go
on the.
frequently to feel better about myself.
I have no mirrors in my workout area, so I don't know.
That's why you need
I
to
don't know
go
how
to
the
the
lighting.
gym.
Yeah, the gym's on the other side of town. I don't want to drive that far.
Rochester has like 6 people. Do you remember when you picked me up and we drove from Minnesota to Rochester and you were like, look at these mountains? And I was like, I don't see any mountains.
I never. You are so full of it. I had never said that. What the? No, but I do remember you saying, "This is real. This is a real quote." I remember. I don't remember where we were exactly. I don't know if it was the drive down here or when we got to Rochester, but you were like, "Man, it's so flat around here," and it's like not flat. There's actually hills, but compared to like out where you're at, well, yeah, they're not mountains, but that is a comment you made. It's like, man, everything's so flat.
I'm so funny.
Got anything else you'd like to add? Do we have any questions from the listeners? You could put them in the comment section, and we would be
No,
happy to
we
answer.
had 5 concurrent listeners when we started, and then you showed that commercial and everybody left.
I'm sorry, it happens. This may be where the time I have to duck out because my son's in here now tattling on his sisters. So this probably would be a good time to duck out. Any final thoughts you want to add?
Yes, everybody be safe this weekend. Have
Oh, yes.
fun. Don't do anything too wild. That's all I got.
My son is saying, "Hey, do you want to wave? Just wave goodbye. We're about to leave." Okay.
I
Well,
feel like
that's
you
my
look
key.
so much like your wife.
He looks more like my wife than me. Yes. Oh, now he's yeah. Okay. I got to go see what has been destroyed out there. So, all right. Thank you all for watching. Yes, and have a safe 4th. Please don't blow off your hands if you're going to light off fireworks. Just be safe. So, thank you all. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Oh, what?